Welcome, we are going to start a series of Pathfinder Kingmaker. Since I bought the game at the start of the release, and there were some things that weren't yet inside the game, and some updates ago they've been added. Although I've not finished my main save, I'm going to start a second save to see what I've missed at least. And should I catch up with my mind, then I will turn this also into my main save. Let's save this, that is from the start. The game originally had long loading screens, and for a while around December they become extremely long, which was partially solved but still very long. And at some updates recently, around January I think,
our story started at the mansion of an Aldori sword lord,
much faster.
drawn by the promise of a most dangerous task and a commensurately huge reward. Heroes of all stripes gathered here.
Where are they? This is taking forever! It didn't even say what this was for, just that the Aldori were looking for heroes. Who are the Aldori anyway, rich folk?
Redey Lomarr rolls her eyes and can't believe something so rowdy and stupid is around.
Just go back to your mountains or whatever hole you crawled out of. The Aldori sword lords run the premier school for the dueling arts. They're also the richest and most influential group in this part of Brevoy. Take that tour with them, and they'll teach you some manners pretty quickly.
I'm just hovering over those texts. If you want to read, you can read them, but I'm not going to be... Though there are not so many things like this new that would make me read a lot of things, still I'm just going to be doing that like...
All right, you purple toad, just shut your trap. And if you can't, I'll help you.
Hush! Quiet! They're coming.
Working so close to the group.
Greetings, everyone. I am Sword Lord Jamandi Aldori, and this is Lord Mayor Yosef Selimius of Restall. Welcome to my mansion.
We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for responding to our call. You may be few, but that's unavoidable. We need only the best of the best for this task. And I see true heroes with you, strong and fearless, exactly what Restov needs.
One thing I don't like in this game is voice acting, in part because of things like that, though in this case it's a very benign form of it. You have some description and emotes and the text of what the character says, but you have also the audio. So if you start reading, the audio is already here. If it starts here and reads, then a description is interrupting then, but the voice keeps on, so you either have to wait for the description of the physical performance, so to speak, or anything that the writer considers relevant, and either you wait to the end of everything to read that and know what you were missing, and you stop listening and you to pay attention to what is that description, and then you have to read it anyway. I would prefer if they stuck to in this kind of interaction in games just reading. This isn't all voice acted, which is not either something I'm much fan of. Make it voice acted or don't. But I don't like it very varying. It's mostly not voice acted, so in this case, and when it is voice acted, they do not do much of annoying things with this. Pillars of Eternity in the first game, it annoyed me a lot, and everything, as far as I recall, was voice acted. In fact, I've never been too deep into that game, for some reason or another. And that's my biggest, my main complaint and gripe with the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. They've made the new companions to be voice acted when the rest isn't. And it feels to me jarring.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Now, to the point. South of here, just beyond Brevoy's border, lies a region known as the Stolen Lands. This is disputed territory, and while it's long been claimed by nearby states, it's never been truly taken. I won't bore you with the legal technicalities. Suffice to say that anyone with enough courage and power to seize the Stolen Lands and name themselves Baron or Baroness, claiming dominion, well, none of the neighboring states would be able to challenge it. Of course, Restov would be first to recognize the legitimacy of this new state, as well as the noble title of its founder. Unfortunately, one serious obstacle stands between you and this title. A gang of bandits holds sway in the Stolen Lands. Their chief, who they call the Stag Lord, considers himself the rightful owner of these lands, and no one has yet been able to challenge his power. Bring me his head, and you'll be able to return to the Stolen Lands as their legal ruler. Any questions?
First obvious, if there's a whole team of people and there has not been a proper leader named beforehand.
I will, of course. I'm the leader of this team, after all. Don't worry, though. I'll make it worth your while to help you.
We haven't yet begun, and you already speak of divvying rewards. What makes you think we'll even succeed? There's little point arguing about who gains the title when we'll most likely lose our lives there.
If I may please answer the question.
She takes a long pause, waiting for the voices to die down as everyone directs their attention towards her.
We believe you're all equally deserving of a noble title. Over the course of your expedition, it will be up to you as a team to decide which of you is best suited to rule.
Great way to create dissension between the members, which it is a way. They don't want the new barony to be very harmonic, but between themselves, and they may be undermining the whole enterprise from the very start, and it may to break even before the intended goal is achieved. That would be Redey's thoughts. And what she would ask is, you're helping us found a barony, what do you gain from such generosity? But instead, because Diamante Aldori is basically a countess or a duchess inside a kingdom, she's not the queen of the place. It would be, why do you take this adventure and give us titles and not the queen? Do you have the queen's backing, because this kingdom is ruled by a queen?
Don't ask stupid questions. Why should you even care? What they have to gain and why, that's for Lady Aldori and I to discuss. It's none of your concern. Your only concern is to swing your sword around, or whatever it is you do.
Of course, we stand to benefit from this enterprise. But if you're concerned that we intend to rule your country from afar, using you as a front, well, please know that these concerns are unfounded. Let's just say that we have a strong interest in the region's stability. We have need of a ruling power we can negotiate with, not bandit gangs and monster hordes.
But you're undermining that already by letting us fight over who will become Baron.
What is that smell in the air? Is it the smell of unspoken words and political intrigue?
Noticing you've heard her comments winks at you coyly. This is new in the game I started. This character wasn't there. And I think that line doesn't look too well to me. Why not just recognize this Stag Lord as Baron? If you can't give us the title, why can't you recognize him? They wouldn't think that's really a valid question to make. Because of course, if he's a bandit and he's been terrorizing the people around, and you gave them the power they've been abusing, you will be sending a message of being in the side of those who prey on the weak, and that you don't respect the laws of the land, and that paints you as a tyrant, which would harm your prestige, your support, and might also even be something disliked by the Queen. To find that some of her dukes have just granted a piece of land to someone that is a criminal. It's clear out there.
Excellent. You venture forth tomorrow. For now, you can take some time to get to know one another better. Or you can head straight to your guest rooms to get some rest. You'll find we've already prepared supplies for you there. And thank you again for agreeing to take part in this expedition. I wish you luck.
Thank you again, with all my heart, for replying to this call. The flare in your eyes reveals your courage, the unshakable will that distinguishes true heroes. I look at you, O champions of Restov, and doubt not for a second that you'll be victorious. So venture forth toward your feet, go, and return in triumph.
And the gathering disperses.
Hi, my name's Lindsay. I'm a bard, though this is my first real adventure. So, shall we go teach this Stag Lord a lesson? I have
Sure will.
no doubt. Kind of related, I wanted to ask you something.
We will have plenty of tales to tell.
How do you feel about this Tartuccio fellow? I think he's pretty obnoxious personally. He appointed
Indeed.
himself head of the team, and he's just after the Baron's crown, or whatever it is barons wear. It doesn't matter. I don't like him. I think you should be team leader. When I first saw you, I couldn't help but think, now here's a real hero. Someone who'll be praised in poems and songs. This is the person I'll write my book about.
At least you have seen also in this one part why this is as bad to me as Pillars of Eternity. Mostly those pieces of texts are descriptors of what the voice actor is performing. Haven't you seen the skull in my heart?
Damn, I should have led with that. Please, just let me explain. You know what the trouble with most heroes' biographies is? They're always written years later, based on the tales of, best case, people who saw things from the outside. Worst case, someone heard about it from their brother, who heard it from their friend, who heard it from their cousin, and so on, adding a new batch of lies each time. Every time I read about a heroic journey, I think to myself, why Why didn't they just bring a bard with them to write it all down properly?
Definitely better bard than a journalist.
And then I thought I could be that bard. I just needed to find a suitable hero and volunteer to follow along on their glorious adventure. A great plan, huh? And here we are, with a heroic journey lying before us. Who's going to be the hero? Some dwarf who keeps muttering about how we'll all die? Or maybe that horrific scythe lady? Or, God's forbid, Tartuccio? No way.
No way she would say that Barbarian looks pretty heroic because she looks pretty stupid. The kind of heroism of the people that have no idea about tactics or strategy. The dumb fool that charges at everything, at every feint, at everything that the enemy dangles in front of his eyes. She charges at that. In front of a precipice, that idiot will think it's coward not to charge full speed at it. I have nothing against Tartuccio. She will not know him personally and have no issue other than how full of himself he sounds.
Really? Well, alright. But I hope you change your mind. Alright. I'm going to my room to write about tonight. See you in the morning.
The first step on the road to glory. My quill takes its first sip from the inkpot and scripts, or rather scribbles the first line of the book about the travels, adventures, and victories that lie ahead. The book that will extol both its heroine and me, its author, Lindsay the not to serve, may come up with a fancy nickname added here. I am writing this in the banquet hall where Sir Lord Redey Aldori has just finished telling us about the mission that lies before us. Tomorrow at dawn our team will set off to the stolen lands in order to accomplish glorious feats. This is where my book begins, and the gods themselves can't say what will happen next. Leave the hall. We have a long road ahead of us, but we all need to get a good night's sleep. Fortunately, Lady Diamante has graciously given us each a bedroom in her mansion. I have to admit I am so excited that I won't be able to even close my eyes. Fortunately, I had a chance to talk with the future heroine of my book. I think Redey Lomarr is just the person I was looking for. Okay, so first about difficulty. I decided to set normal and change a few things. The standard in normal is to have weak critical hits, to have slightly weaker enemies, and 0.8 damage to party. And I made all that to normal. Otherwise, it is unchanged. This is Redey Lomarr. She is a human sorceress of undead bloodline. Basically, in a kind of a draft in background, she is descended from some undead in the family line. In this case, I would say that it would be her grandfather being a vampire that charmed her grandmother and had a baby that is her father. Her father wasn't quite obvious of undead blood, but the vampire was killed shortly after his birth by adventurers, and there was enough to make everybody suspect that he was a product of him. But also helped by some kind of feral characteristics of his face. But it had not been enough to prove it definitely, which would make the reaction to be cold to him and even soon to him more or less strong depending on the people. But somehow he managed to get a woman that would accept his petition of her hand, with division about the people in the village about whether she didn't know of his nature or he enchanted him and enchanted her so that she was more or less compelled to marry him. And there were also the third part, that is of those who refused to believe that her father is descended from a vampire, who would say, how can an undead have a child? There is no way. But although not everybody thought that her father was of undead blood, she would have still been son somewhat. And then Manny wouldn't have allowed their children to play with her. Which means that between the good influence of her mother, the bad influence of a not complete isolation but seeing many people on her, the kind of games and freedom of not having many people telling her things because of fear of her, which she didn't have to notice that it was fear, just that she was sad and avoided. It turned it into that she wouldn't be evil, she wouldn't despise the life of others, and she wouldn't think of that as meaningless. But she is not so appreciative of others if she has grown to be selfish, and treasuring her own freedom and not have quite a liking for authority. So she is chaotic neutral. The decisions that are coming will decide whether she might stay neutral or lean towards good or evil, and whether she will multiclass into something else and avoid the 20th level of the undead bloodline, which brings with it defeat one of us. At 20th level, your form begins to rot, and undead see you as one of them. You gain immunity to cold, paralysis, and sleep. You also gain the air, damage reduction 5. You receive +4 moral bonus on saving throws made against spells and spell-like abilities cast by undead. In that case, that undead nature would probably come over to her and very likely turn her into evil. I invested mainly in persuasion, use of magic device, arcana, and religion. Charisma is high not just because it's the main casting ability, but as a representation of the strength of the curse of the undead blood. And that is where the racial bonus has been set, to give her +2. Wisdom is 12 instead of 10 or lower, as representative of being the wisdom and smart enough that to represent the effect of the influence from her mother, making her strong enough that the not although the isolation, the degree of isolation that she would have suffered, not turned her into evil. Intelligence 12 because she would have some education from her father's parents, and strength, dexterity, constitution as influence of the increased physical prowess from the vampiric effects of her grandfather. Well, I'm not sure yet if I will make her a sorcerer that goes into the first line of combat, which is doubtful. I made her to have the feat of point blank shot, as because the undead in her bloodline is so close as only the grandfather. Spell focus and greater spell focus on necromancy, and therefore her spells is one necromantic spell that I think is one of two in the first level, and the other I decided to make it magic armor in if only to give her more chances to survive the start of the game, and also as a magic representation of her ability to become tougher. And this is the character for which the portrait that is taken from an image from Google. Get some rest before the road. You have a difficult journey before you. Adventurer. It may be difficult, but at least it won't be boring.
Let us press on.
Tomorrow our glorious journey begins. Are you ready? I hope so. I don't need liabouts on my team. Finally, the idle talk's over. Can't wait to set out. That's a companion of travel I wouldn't like to have. Jethal, the lady with the sight. What game is your man playing? I'm not used to feeling like a pawn. Exactly that is my sentiment. Harem. Don't show tutorials. The expedition is surely doomed. Northern architecture is beautiful, but very ivory. In my native lands of Kaldira, palaces are furnished quite differently. And I think this will be the end of the chapter.